With patch 1.5 in full swing, the meta has shifted, shaking up character rankings in exciting ways. That's why today we're diving deep to answer the big questions. Is Asher Yao now the best character in the game? How strong is Lighter? And what other surprises does this update bring? With this, let's break it all down now. Let's get into it. Now, a disclaimer before we get into today's video. The rankings we're using for these characters are quadruple S, triple S, double S, single S, A, but of course this was more for comedic effect and not actually to be taken so seriously. However, there is some truth to this, as many of these characters are usable in one way or another for content like Shiyu defense, or if your goal is something like 2-starring a deadly assault for a total of 6 stars. That being said though, let's introduce our guest for today's video.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I am JStern25. I'm a fellow Zenless content creator, YouTuber, and streamer. I'm on Twitch and YouTube. You can check me out here. Hopefully the link is in the description. Thank you for inviting me again. I appreciate the opportunity. Let's talk about tier listing.
Wait, why is Ben smushed? Do you see this?
He's Ben smaller.
Yeah, Ben's smaller. What the hell is it? Okay. With that, we can start with Billy. And for me personally, I'm going to start off a little hot. And of course, we can move things around later on. But I actually think that Billy is an S rank character, which sounds way better than it does off paper. Or, you know, if we had the actual list. Let me explain. So for me personally, I understand. Billy and DPS in this game is one of the things that I think a lot of people fixate on heavily. They want to see how much damage they do. They want to be able to clear content in X amount of specific time. And for me specifically, though I understand that someone like Billy does maybe need the help of limited supports in order to do decent damage, the accessibility to him, his damage, and just how much easier he is to play than arguably most of the other characters that will be in this S to A rank range, I think kind of puts him in a fine location in S. I have like a concern for him specifically, which is that I think that a lot of the content right now doesn't necessarily favor him perfectly. Like, we haven't had many. Jason, do you remember the last time we had a physical boss?
In
like
Shield Defense, it was last update. In Deadly Assault, there isn't one.
So yeah, so I'm not tripping. Billy is a character that everyone like obviously knows is flashy and people will use him to solo content. You know, there are a lot of vocal Billy mains. However, I mean, it's really hard sometimes to kind of justify picking Billy when he just doesn't do enough damage in some of the fights. Now, if there's AoE, I think he does fine, but as they've now introduced like a pretty much solo boss only encounter with Deadly Assault, if you're not basically using Billy to fight something that's physical weak, I don't know if he's super OP or strong. And like, what are your things specifically about him?
So I think Billy is really cool. I respect immensely that there are players who are dedicated to maximizing Billy. Billy also does have Lost Void modifiers. He's the only A rank right now to have them. Again, another really nice thing about him, so he won't feel that bad if you bring him to Lost Void. Players really love maximizing him. He has a Mindscape that makes his dodge roll or his roll a dodge, which is essentially mandatory for playing him for a lot of those challenges, which is fine. He's, first of all, the first one is free. Second of all, he's an A rank in a game with 10 A ranks. There's like a 50% chance a character will be featured in an update or on banner in a single update.
Yep.
Because there are only 10 of them and they need to run 4 characters per update. Mindscapes on A ranks are really forgiving right now. I've seen more people playing the other Fizz A rank.
Piper? What do you mean by she's
based on? I'm talking about Corin.
Okay. So
I've seen more Corin clears than Billy clears.
I actually
single boss content.
Are you okay with his placement in S? Do you feel very strongly that he should be somewhere else?
No, I think I had Billy there on my own.
Okay. That's Billy. The next character that we have is Anton. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I was in the middle of making an Anton guide that I promised I'd make my community, and then every other character in every other gacha game in the world got released, which is like just unfortunate. But I was learning a lot about Anton and some of his tech and like some of the optimizations you can do with him to kind of take him above and beyond. Believe it or not, it's
me with an example.
Doing the drill tech where if you don't do the initial hits from Anton's basics and you just hit the boss with the drill at the end, you like stay infinitely in drill. Now, very unrealistic. What I would say is that regardless of all the techs, regardless of all the optimizations, what I really value the most about Anton is that he follows, or he is very simple, or he's very designed in the way that I think most people would associate attack agents to be designed. It's very, okay, wait for a stun or wait for like your supports to put out the buffs, then just like go to town on with Anton. Like I saw some like Shiyu clears of him being cleared in like 30 seconds.
Have you seen the recent Anton teams and Anton clears then?
The Anton Astra.
Anton Astra Nicole.
I haven't. I know you mentioned that last stream.
His quick assist is a drill attack.
Yeah.
So that is actually a practical infinite.
Okay.
You quick assist, quick assist, quick assist, quick assist, quick assist, and you ult when it's available.
Hey, if that's a respectable team and if it does very well, I've got no problem rating him in the S tier. That was the thing that I was going to end with. I think for a character being that easy or that straightforward to play, I think it's hard not to put him in S. You know, if you wanted to have a tier list only dedicated to doing a lot of damage, then like, sure, cool, that's fine. But for me specifically, even 80 or 90% of what's optimal for a character without having to sweat every single moment is pretty valuable. For that reason specifically, I should say. I consider Anton to be an S. What are your thoughts on Anton? Like, where would you put him?
I would honestly say A if you aren't playing Nicole Astra. Because the thing about Anton is give you the better Anton for free.
Ooh, we're going to be really divisive about that one, I think. This next character that we have is Corin. My impression of Corin is pretty low. I will say I've built her and I've played her before. I'm a guide maker, not a guide using expert in every single case. One of the things that I really didn't like about Corin is that though you don't really ever have like a reason to use it, like a lot of her like skills, like let's say her dash attack, it's just like, what am I doing? Though there are like optimizations and setups I'm sure you could use to like make her do a lot of damage, and her multipliers are like very high, the feeling of this character is so much worse like on average, and if you're not like fully aware of all her combos, that it feels that even if it looks like she can do like a load of damage with her ultimate, if it looks like she can do an insane amount of damage with her EX special.
Do you think there are people playing Corin without holding down the button?
I don't think that's why they would put her in A, but I think it's like if you get knocked over or something, like is it hard to get back in and like, you know, prep things? Like if you fight against two enemies, like, you know, some of the Shiyu defenses.
Super tiny AoE.
Yeah, it's like, what am I doing here, right? And while her damage is respectable, if her optimizations, if the end, like the top end of her damage is not comparable to some of the other characters, these are things that would influence her. The reason why I don't think she's the worst character in the game actually is because like I looked into that one of the clears for Deadly Assault. I saw like her numbers were pretty impressive. Like this is like an A rank character in Deadly Assault team. I mean, like some of these other characters that we'll talk about later, they're pissed. Like, like honestly, for that, I have her in A. Do you have her somewhere else or?
Because I feel like Billy's stuff has fallen by the wayside in favor of Corin stuff. You could say maybe Corin better than Billy. I don't know. If you want to have her on A, it's fair enough. I don't think she's spectacular. And I think you did a good job giving Corin her flowers because there have been...
If we leave her an A for now, like I think it's fine. Okay, the next character we have is Piper. She was actually one of the first characters that I leveled because I was like an insane Grace lover. Like I wanted to play Grace so much. And her, like Grace's best team on launch was like Grace, Piper, and Rina. I don't think her playstyle or like the thematic of her playstyle has changed much. She is obviously still like a spinning Beyblade. Like she wants to apply physical like anomalies as quickly as possible. Even with new anomaly characters coming out, like I know some people are trying to use her with Miyabi, which is like more like Miyabi carrying the team. Regardless, like I think she's a decent character for applying anomalies. She does it really fast. Like there's people that were using like M6 Piper and M6 Lucy, and that was clearing for a good while too in some of the Shiyus and some of the Deadly Assaults. It was either Marionettes or one of the third bosses. I got like 6 stars like on stream with Piper and Lucy. For that, I think me personally, I would probably put Piper at the top of double S, probably in triple S. Top of double S, bottom of triple S for me personally. What are your thoughts on Piper?
So you have a much better idea of what this is going to end up looking like than me. I think SS is fine. Piper is very good. Piper is a bit of a support dependent character where she wants to be played with M6 Lucy. She wants to be played with Burnice. She wants to increase the damage of the team while also contributing her own anomaly stuff. She wants to proc disorder. Piper is extremely good with Burnice. You do need Burnice though. The difference between like say Piper and Jane is Piper gets more damage out of teammates.
Yeah.
While Jane does more damage. And that ends up netting even, generally speaking.
In people's minds, I feel like they would just say like, well, if Jane can't do it, then Piper can. And like, that's not necessarily true. Whenever someone says, oh, how good is Jane? Or like, oh, how good is Piper in like a certain fight? They usually, I feel like they unfairly sometimes influence each other's positions or like influence the result perception that people have. Well, I guess it won't really affect Piper's placement right now, though like maybe once we get to Jane, I might change things up. All right, I hear you're the world's biggest Soukaku defender. So actually I'll let you start first. I'll give my take on Soukaku after. How do you feel about Soukaku?
either. Soukaku is awesome. She's an ice support, essentially makes Lycaon Miyabi a team. She's also free. She was on the Miyabi banner. She just has good synergy with Miyabi. She applies a ton of anomaly. Most people don't know that when you play her with Miyabi, you should run Anomaly Mastery, slot 6 on her, and you can run Kaboom the Cannon instead of Bashful Demon to get extra energy regen for more ice anomaly app. I think Soukaku, Lycaon, Miyabi is a team that is good enough to elevate Soukaku's placement. She is as good as ice characters are, or as good as her best team is. Characters that Soukaku supports are Ellen and Miyabi. If you think Ellen is not very good, then that will reflect on placement of Soukaku. If you think Miyabi is better off without Soukaku, that also reflects more negatively on Soukaku. I think that team is very good. Personally, it is also the literal hardest Miyabi team to min-max. It does have a payoff.
That's what you're using to clear on stream too, right? I think I saw you using Miyabi Bringer or something.
Trying to practice it on stream, yeah.
I agree with a lot of what you say. I've seen Soukaku, especially more recently, perform out of her mind, but I also think that people at the start of Zenless, Soukaku was like very good at like gelling glue for the 1.0 like meta. Like especially when they didn't have Lucy, and then especially when they were pairing Soukaku with Ellen. Not just easy it was, but how synergistic like the composition felt like when you had someone like Ellen, Lycaon, and Soukaku together. But I think like the biggest thing actually about her that I really appreciate is unintentional, but like probably intentional buff that she got with the decibel changes. Just knowing that at some point I'll be able to use like an ultimate, which honestly does pretty good damage while also giving her like free stat and stuff. I think that's highly underrated, but I'm not sure if necessarily people consider Soukaku to be that bad anymore. I'd probably put Soukaku. Oh, wait, I just realized this is Soukaku as a DPS. wait. I was talking about Soukaku as a support. God damn.
It's like the same as Ellen, maybe a little worse.
Yeah. Okay. Audible. I've seen people clear at around the same time as Ellen. Like that was something that I mentioned when I did my Ellen update video. Would you say that Ellen is easier to play than Soukaku, DPS wise?
Yeah.
I also feel the same way. Even if their damage output or like their results can end up similar, I think that Soukaku is still like a good, but I don't think like a for everyone DPS. That's Soukaku. Okay, how about Ben Smaller actually, because he's cut off in half. He's shrinking in the portrait. That's what he's doing.
Put him on the tier list.
I did look into Ben a little bit more. I tried really hard after our last stream to see if there was any like consistent performance from him in Deadly Assaults and Shiyu's. I did come to one conclusion while I was looking into Ben, is that Shiyu is just like way easier than Deadly Assault. In most cases, there's always some way to finesse like a boss or finesse like a scenario or tailor a fight so that someone can shine, which is why I think I've seen so many clears with Ben and Shiyu. But the second that I look into Deadly Assault, it's like you get a few here or there, but it like drastically falls off. That might also be because of like the buffs not lining up with Ben specifically, but I can't, he's got to be like maybe tied for the worst DPS. I have not seen anything convincing enough where like someone else wouldn't just do his job but better. Again, this is specifically from DPS Ben POV. This is not necessarily his support performance, but spoiler, it's not much better. And in any case though, I have him at A. He's a funny looking unit, and I hope in the future they like give him a set or like a W engine comes out that makes him like explode. What are your thoughts on Ben?
I don't really have thoughts on Ben. He's one of the few characters that I haven't really ever tried to play because there's just not a ton to do with him. Maybe you can argue he's similar to Soldier 11.
Maybe he'll get a change in the future. With Ben out of the way, what do you think about Nekomata?
This is another character I don't have built. I played Nekomata on the creator server when I was given the opportunity to. You know, on paper, Neko is supposed to be as good or better than Billy or Corin.
That is saying a lot right now.
Technically.
I agree.
The problem with that is no one plays Neko.
Before you give your rating for where you would place her, I've gotten brigaded a little bit. Basically, all the niche character fans, I've gotten asked, like it'll be on random content, like Evelyn is so strong. Like I'll be saying something like Evelyn is so strong, and they'll say, yeah, but like what about my M6 Nekomata, like clearing a little bit faster than that clear that you just showed? Like,
oh, they're calling you skillish?
I know, like it's like okay, okay, like I don't know, like what like yeah, all right, you beat me, I guess. I've also tried clearing Shius and Deadly Assaults with Nekomata. The results in the math will say one thing or another, right? Outside of liking her character design, her functional kit design just is not enjoyable. For me personally, at least.
What do you mean by that? I have a problem with Neko, which is her auto target is really sad. Something is going to be difficult to execute or difficult to play or require a knowledge check. You want it to have a payoff.
Yeah. For that reason, I would say she's probably, I have to leave her an A. Like, I can't, would you say the argument for S has to do with her being paired with like Astra and Nicole?
Yes.
With Anton myself, I performed so well with Anton.
Okay. But stand by it.
Okay, I'll leave him. I'll leave him here. I'll leave him here. I'll leave him here.
I think Neko is better than Ben.
Okay, so I'll start with Grace. I have made a guide for Grace. I've played with Grace a lot. She was like one of my favorite characters at the start of the game. The feet thing was so funny for me at the start of the game because it was just so like ham-fisted into your face. And I was like, wow, this is like an insane direction to take with the game. But with Grace's performance and like me trying her out, I think she just like doesn't really have a place right now. If you want someone to apply Anomaly, there are other characters that do it. Maybe not as well without having like Burnice on your team. I think if you want electric DPS, there's other options like Yanagi, there's Harumasa. I mean, hell, even Anton, I think, in terms of just needing an electric DPS, I think would probably be fine. The only real like scenario that I've seen Grace kind of thrive in is if you end up using Grace with like Miyabi or like Burnice. And when I say thrive, I mean they aren't like Grace is not griefing. Yeah, Grief is not griefing you for existing. Miyabi doesn't need Grace. Like let's just keep it a buck. And even if you use Burnice with any of the other characters, whether that's like Piper, any other Anomaly, or any other like, I mean, honestly, any DPS in the game with Burnice, I think performs quite well. It kind of just makes Grace lose her spot. And so for that, I think it would be dishonest to say that I feel better about playing Nekomata or Ben than Grace. In my opinion, her only saving grace is that she's like a sub DPS. How do you feel about Soldier?
To the point where she is literally as bad as Neko, or she is better than Alan?
I would say for Soldier, I think her idea or like her concept is like something that I think a lot of people were challenged by at the start of the game, which is why I think people invested in and tried to learn her. If I'm not mistaken, she has a very high play rate, as she is one of probably like the only decent standard like selector DPS in the game. Your alternatives being Grace, Nekomata. Like among that, you know, we also didn't have a great fire DPS until Burnice. I would probably put Soldier in either bottom of double S or top of S, is because she does have swings, as you say. I would just say that
if you want to evaluate her at peak performance, I think SS is fair.
Okay, the next character that we have on the topic of infuriating the entire community, now we have Ellen. I think I could best summarize Ellen as, if you have Ellen from 1.0, she's fine. Not amazing, not completely unusable, she's fine. Like if you're trying to get 2-star ranking, or if you're trying to S rank a Shiyu where there's ice, there are a lot of variables here, right? Like if you have lighter Soukaku, I think she does pretty well. In a couple of the most recent Deadly Assaults, I've been using Ellen, and when I do have someone like lighter, like another limited, like it is technically 2 limiteds, she's still getting like anywhere between 24 and like probably 28,000 damage, which is, that's something, you know. Like there are other characters that you could use and probably get at 20,000 or lower and not even hit it, which I think makes her a usable character. But as I also mentioned in like my Ellen guide, definitely by no means a character that I would recommend in like this day and age to pull for. I feel like Soldier and Ellen's positions for me have to remain fairly close. I feel like the only advantage that I find from someone like nowadays is that like, well, I guess she might clear a little bit faster than Soldier if there's an ice weak enemy. But otherwise, I don't really see like the value in Ellen. In theory, they should perform, or like their concept of character should be similar to Soldier.
I want to talk a little bit how Deadly Assault as a game mode is designed. Out of those 4 ice weak enemies, Ellen can clear 2 of them consistently.
How about
the
Soldier?
Problem with Ellen
in
saying that ice DPS is super prevalent and Ellen is good because ice DPS, she literally isn't a good matchup on Notorious Dead End Butcher or Bringer. She isn't good enough to tackle those bosses who are the most difficult bosses. And the way that Deadly Assault is designed, each layout so far, and for a bit of the foreseeable future, has one of those enemies each time.
Okay, this is specifically just for Deadly Assault.
Yes. Ellen is essentially constantly the second choice if an enemy has ice weakness.
Okay, I think that's fair. We could leave her in double S. We'll have like this section at the end where we'll readjust her or something. Let's talk about Zhu Yuan. All right, this I think is probably a hot take, But I'm a big fan of Zhu Yuan for a couple of reasons. Probably the quintessential attack agent DPS in terms of how to play her. And I think her teams, like every single team that she has, is extremely easy to play. I shouldn't say extremely easy to play, but they make sense. Like they flow very linearly and it's straightforward. I think Zhu Yuan for me has to be triple S. There are of course going to be fights where she doesn't perform nearly as well as others, but for a number of reasons, we have a character here like Zhu Yuan is usually, you know, Zhu Yuan's ether, which makes her strong against the ether bosses, and there's no other ether DPS that you'd really be running. Because of that, I think Zhu Yuan is very powerful. I consider her to be triple S. What do you think about Zhu Yuan?
Okay, so Zhu Yuan needs one limited, whether it's Astra or Qingyi. So the team is Zhu Yuan, Nicole, and then Astra or Qingyi. I think Zhu Yuan is uniquely really good with Astra and Nicole. I think the idea of Zhu Yuan is only playable during stun causes a lot of misinformation.
Could you guys imagine if Nekomata felt like Zhu Yuan to play?
I wish Zhu Yuan say it was bigger. I think it's too small.
That's actually personally why I like using Nicole the most. Let's take a look at Jane Doe. Jane is a character that may feel flashy or comfortable to play. She's got a nice dodge counter. Her playstyle is very, very simple. Like compared to some of the other characters on this list, but her DPS performance is just not there. Now, I will say, you know, as this tier list has grown and developed, neither just play nor performance should affect the exact placement, or neither of them only will affect the placement of these characters. But for me personally, I think Jane is a character that's definitely fallen. Like I know some people agree or maybe disagree with Pridewind, but for like me specifically, when I see that results for Jane are always skewing worse or equal to Jane or to Piper, I think that's a bit of a concern. I would be uncomfortable putting her any lower than where Piper is. I think I would probably put her in double S right now.
I agree. I don't like putting Jane below or above Piper right now. Piper makes teammates do more damage. Jane herself does more damage. If Jane's damage was more significant or more relevant, then you could argue for Jane being a tier above, but it's unfortunately not right now.
Yeah.
I pulled up the Pridewind pages as you were talking about it. She's consistently performing below Piper by their usage metrics.
Yeah.
And that is just because Burnice is more prevalent and her damage contribution matters a lot. As a solo DPS, isn't really good enough.
We now have Burnice. I think there are some characters, or there is a concept in gacha games recently, power creeping, and like what makes a character's longevity increase or like stay extended and stay relevant, basically what makes a character relevant. And I think Burnice has a kit that kind of pushes her in that direction. Probably, if not maybe only matched by someone like Yanagi, who's also like of the DPS category. I think almost any content in the game that isn't literally like fire resistant, and even sometimes fire resistant, can use Burnice or have some success or gain value when adding Burnice to the kit. And I think that honestly, her kit is not that hard. I do think she's also gotten a buff with the decibel change from where she's now good to now probably like a little bit more good. Like, you know, like I don't think she's game breaking or anything like that, but if you want to use someone like Burnice with Yanagi, like Burnice Yanagi as a team, if you want to use Burnice Jane as a team, if you want to use Miyabi like Burnice as a team, I don't think any of these teams would feel bad. In fact, like I think they all feel pretty good. And I think she's maybe one of the best agents right now, or one of the most consistently used agents in Deadly Assault. With that, I would say Burnice.
I think Burnice is a triple S. If you want to account for her support capability here, Burnice is triple S in my opinion. Are you arguing for quadruple?
Yeah, I'm almost thinking, because like, is there literally a character that is more used than Burnice? Is she the most used like secondary like non-support character in the game? I would actually put her ahead of Zhu Yuan. That's what I would probably do. Okay, the next character that we have is Yanagi. I'm a bit annoyed by Yanagi, not in terms of how to play her or anything, but because I spent so much time trying to figure out how to describe and explain her, and now all that anyone does is just get an anomaly and then press EX special, and I'm really mad because I tried really hard thinking how to optimize her kit, and then it's just not necessary. But
the optimization is shock inherently does the most of any disorder. You want to disorder after you apply shock technically, so you want to fully activate the shock anomaly and then have the self-disorder trigger. That is the optimization for Yanagi.
I'm not personally comfortable dropping Yanagi see anything lower than triple S. However, I think if anyone were ever to say that like Yanagi is like, you know, so insane, so crazy, I would implore you guys to try her without some of the most OP teams, because while she does still perform well, but I don't think she's Miyabi or Evelyn tier is what I'm trying to say. And I think her teams illustrate that or demonstrate that. What are your thoughts on Yanagi? Like, do you feel good about her? Or
yeah, Yanagi's great. I love the shock anomaly. The fact that she can proc her own disorder makes her much more functional as her own DPS, which is something that Grace actively struggles with.
yeah,
I think Yanagi's amazing.
you know, though I know some people be like, oh my god, this animation is so long, like why is Yanagi in the air? Sometimes that feels pretty good to play. And so with that, I'll leave her at triple S. I won't go any further on her. The next character that we have is, oh boy, we're about to ruffle a lot of feathers with this guy. I want to say I've heard your take on Harumasa. Let me be clear. I've worked with, or I like work with currently with Pridewin on like some of their like Zenless content. Not everything, but I do work with Zenless. I think the best way to rate and accurately assess Harumasa is what they did with the expert tag. What they have, if you guys aren't familiar with the expert tag, is that the expert tag, when it's added to a character, means that you could roughly see their performance go like up or down a tier-ish, depending on how familiar or how comfortable you are with the character. For me, I think there's no better illustration of this than Harumasa, because let's be honest, the other day, Jay Stern didn't know that you could ever do only 8 dash attacks, and then I proved him wrong. So, you know, in that sense, there's gotta be someone that's equal, if not worse than I am at playing Harumasa. And if that's the case, you know, I think he's a character that has a lot of potential. He can do damage for sure. I would probably put Harumasa, Soldier, and Ellen pretty close to each other, for me personally. All right,
here's
Jason.
a hot take. People will say,
okay.
Actually, DP Harumasa better. He's not better than GN. If you're maximizing Harumasa, you also need to maximize GN. People aren't in this conversation. I think people think GN is a lot simpler than she is, and there isn't things to optimize. There absolutely are.
Yep, I agree.
It's primarily around maximizing rolls and fitting in more shot shells. Harumasa also he loses 40 damage bonus if you play double support. So arguably doesn't have access to double support, or isn't as good at utilizing it than, let's say, GN. I think GN 1 tier above Harumasa is fair and correct, even if you know how to play him. That's my opinion.
Hey, sounds amazing. Okay. All right. Harumasa's in double S. Oh, actually, wait. Are you okay with Harumasa double S?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. How do you feel about Miyabi?
She's the Void Hunter! Have you ever criticized Miyabi? Someone will tell you, and I quote, she is the Void Hunter. You cannot criticize.
It's true. It's true.
No, it's not true. It's just a title. It doesn't mean anything.
Hey. Name one other character that has a whole separate special element dedicated to them. My hands are up.
The reason Miyabi is on her own element is so she can use ice supports and still have access to her resource mechanic. She essentially wouldn't function with ice supports. So that makes Miyabi much better for whatever future ice characters they want to make. The downside is that only Miyabi can build up her anomaly, which isn't really a downside. Miyabi does a lot of damage. Miyabi has, at this point, a lot of viable team options because she does so much damage. People underrate Soukaku Lycaon. You can play Yanagi, you can play Burnice, you can play Nicole Astra. These are all viable, or even the best. Actually, those are all the best Miyabi teams.
Yeah. Moving along, though, we have Evelyn.
Evelyn is a super support-dependent character. If you do have the right pieces for Evelyn, she does more damage than anyone not named Miyabi. She does the same damage as Miyabi if you do have all the support pieces, and that's assuming you're able to maximize Miyabi and maximize Evelyn. They're both very good characters. If you want to argue Evelyn isn't as good at drafting a team than Miyabi, so she's a tier lower, I think that's fair. I think because of how much damage Evelyn does, I think it's significantly better than anyone you have in triple S.
I think Miyabi is, for her level and her performance, easier to play than Evelyn. Now they're like different characters, obviously, but I think something that's like really interesting about Evelyn is that from all the testing that I've done with her, I found it interesting that I really liked using a stunner with Evelyn, and I did not like using a stunner with Miyabi. This is our initial feelings tier list for the DPS. Is there anything that specifically stands out for you that feels wrong, whether that's the A ranks, the S ranks, or anything like that?
This is like exactly the same as my tier list. I think I had Ellen and Soldier.
Okay,
This is my
gotcha.
tier list.
Okay, I mean, hey, we've got a little bit of difference. I don't have much else
to say. I don't have.
That's the DPS, okay? So now we have the supports. Let's talk about the supports, huh? Let's start with the first character here. We have Anby. I'm not super sold on Anby. I think Anby is okay. I don't think that means that she's unusable. And especially since our tier list goes from quadruple S to A, I think even if I put her in A, I don't think this is like a, if you have Anby on your team, you want like, you've now entered like the Twilight Zone. You know, like you're not upset necessarily that like Anby is there. I think she does her job the way that it should be done. I don't think there are that many other characters that we'll be talking about here that are lower than her. She's just there.
Anby is a rank stun agent. She's the only one. Some people operate under the assumption that every stun character. This is technically a misconception in my opinion. People are afraid of doing damage outside of stun, and I understand, I relate with it, I respect it. If you have to use A rank Anby, you are probably better off without a stun agent on your team.
Now we have like the complete opposite here. We have a crazy support. I think Nicole is fantastic. Now I do think there are people that will just like not care or manage Nicole like properly or optimize with Nicole, and they just assume that they're doing maximum damage when they're not.
True, I have seen you play.
Okay, so anyways, I think Nicole is fantastic because you know what? It's amazing sometimes to see an A rank character that you get for free perform so well. Ooh, we're gonna burn the kitchen off with this one. I don't know if I want to put her in the quadruple S or the triple S yet.
I think it's just if you want to give one agent their own tier.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
That's your real dilemma here. I would confidently say Nicole is the second best support in
terms of this list, or like support as in their support character.
Honestly, in terms of this list, I think Nicole is amazing. She is free. She groups enemies. The fact that she groups enemies makes characters more comfortable or even viable in Shiyu than they otherwise would be. This is especially prevalent with the earlier characters. I don't think they will ever release another agent with a chain attack as small as Soldier 11. I don't think they'll ever do it.
I do hate that chain attack with all my heart. All right, the next character that we have here is Ben. Smaller, not bigger. I think something that I hadn't considered, but I think is valid, is that there is something to be said about like if you would use Anby, you might as well not use Anby. I think that is like actually something that I kind of agree with. However, even if that's not the case, or even with that being the case, sometimes I think there's just a comfort that comes from, again, still from stunning. To be honest with you, Ben's kit in general, I just like, if you're playing support Ben, what, you have an impact? Likely, right? Ben for me is a struggle character. I wish he was better. He's got to be at the bottom of A for me, at least for right now. Okay, the next character we have is Soukaku, and this time I won't be talking about DPS Soukaku because I screwed it up. To summarize though, good attack, the buff is fine. Honestly, I was really surprised when I saw a few people doing calculations for updated Ellen. Lighter Soukaku outperformed Astra Lighter. Part of that, by the way, was because of Soukaku's performance, but I was really surprised. I thought it wasn't going to be like that. I thought it was going to be something entirely different. I also thought that Lighter Astra was going to be better, but Soukaku's kind of the GOAT. In terms of placement for her here,
I just think Soukaku is entirely held afloat by Miyabi. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about using Soukaku with like non-ice teams. Let's talk about Lucy. How do you feel about Lucy?
I have hot takes. I think Lucy got her home stolen by Astra.
Wait, is that a hot take? I actually feel like that's
I had Lucy, I guess, lower than people would assume on my tier list. She buffs less than Nicole, but she's easier. Technically, Lucy is a Mindscape dependent character. Her M6 is very good.
It's pretty game changing for like the supports.
Kaboom the Cannon is an amazing weapon, and honestly, like the best weapon on.
Lucy, I think, is interesting, or more interesting, when you get to use her M6, and I think she makes a couple of the anomaly characters look more playable or feel more alive than than if you would, like, let's say, used one of the other supports like Soukaku or something. Again, you said you wouldn't use it.
Personally, where characters are relevant matters a lot to me. I do think Soukaku is a character who is entirely held afloat by Miyabi, but she's an ice support and there's only one ice DPS. I think Nicole is generally better than Lucy. I think Lucy is easier to play though.
Okay, I'm fine with having her in double S. I don't think much changes. Let's go to Grace then. Grace, though she's like a damage dealer, for the sake of this, like there are some scenarios, you would agree, right? Like Grace is like someone
Burnice, but not as useful.
Oh, J Stern. J Stern. Okay, if I'm being honest, I think whether or not I put Grace in somewhere like S or A doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
I think every team that I've seen Grace perform on, it's almost like, unless if you're using a 1.0 team, in which case it's like not even doing that much damage anyway. Like, it's almost just not worth it to have Grace on the team. Like, I wish I had J Stern's account so I had the M6 feet card, but like otherwise, I don't think like Grace really has an amazing location to thrive in. Like Burnice Grace, all right, like if you really wanted Burnice Grace, but Grace Miyabi, that's like so Miyabi carried. I think leaving her in S for now, and maybe we'll see how the tier list pans out. I think that's fair. Would you put Grace up or down? Or what are your thoughts on Grace?
She's fine. She's one of those doesn't really do anything characters. It's hard. You've done 100 team comps.
Yeah.
You tell me, if you play Harumasa, would you rather play Grace or Anby?
Ooh, oh my God.
If you have to play Harumasa,
oh,
you do not have Qingyi. What do you play?
I'm probably playing Anby. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, then there you go.
Oh God, wait. Okay, but then it looks like this? Oh God, what the hell
I think the support utility for Burnice or...
This looks great. I think this is fine.
The Harumasa thing is more of it's a one or the other scenario, where there are scenarios where Anby can't even be used in comparison to Grace, which is an argument for Grace being one tier above.
Well, that's okay.
Something, but all right.
Okay, I'm okay with keeping her above Anby. Now we have Rina.
Rina is S. She doesn't buff enough. She's a shock buffer. She gives 30 or 40% pen ratio with M1, and she increases shock duration by 3 seconds, which gives you additional shock damage, either if you don't proc shock again within 16 or 13 seconds, or if you do a shock anomaly. The problem is all those buffs together don't do enough.
I mean, the pen ratio buff, like through every calculation that I've seen, I actually went out of my way, ask a couple people to calculate some teams with like, if they're doing calculations, like let's say for like lighter plus X, like I asked them to do it with Rina.
I've done the calcs for Nicole versus Rina for Harumasa. She's like 15% worse than Nicole even at M1, or like 8% worse than Nicole at M1.
Yeah, it was not
it's
like
just she just doesn't do enough.
Yeah.
But I know what the calcs are. I've done them. She just doesn't do enough.
Yeah, I think it's fine to keep her in S. She is like a character that is like very niche because you need to have like several conditions for her to work, similar to Soukaku. So I'm fine with keeping her here. She's not as versatile as I think people want her to be, unfortunately, and that's fine. All right, we should talk about Lycaon. All right, how do you?
Okay, Lycaon's great. SS, easy.
Okay,
that's my opinion. What do you have to say about him? What do you think?
As someone that has been very double support pilled or DPS plus support pilled with the best ice DPS and probably the only relevant ice DPS right now, which is Miyabi, I'm not a huge fan of Lycaon. Like, I understand like if you play him right and if you have like the shred, and there's lots of advantages to playing Lycaon, him alongside Soukaku and Miyabi can do very well, but I almost just don't enjoy the fact that I have to swap off of Miyabi like ever, even if I'm just using it to like proc his EX special or like Lycaon's EX special. Like any of these things I feel like make me feel a little bit uncomfortable on Lycaon, because Miyabi and almost all of her other teams is otherwise just, okay, I'm gonna basic attack, do dodge counters, use your EX special, then like enhance basic attack, swap to another character. It just feels different in my opinion when you have to swap to Lycaon and you're like, here's my charged basic. I think that's something that a lot of people actually comment and tell me about in my comment section. It doesn't really feel good, I would say. There are other characters that I think that stun similarly fast, or if not like equally or more or as fast as him, which we're gonna get to in a second. But fine with him in double S. Ice shred good, high performance. Okay, let's go to Koleda. I've got a lot of things to say about Koleda. Similar to Lycaon, my initial thoughts about Koleda were that I performed, like I didn't play her the right way that I should have. What people saw when they saw that Evelyn was all chain attacks was, oh my God, like let's all play Koleda because Koleda is going to like giga outperform because, oh my God, fire unit, stunner, and they give chain attack buff. That must make Evelyn better than anyone else. Scam. It
certainly makes Koleda much better than she normally is.
Normally
the chain attack buff is completely useless.
Yeah, I think there's a good number of people that have soldier and also skipped lighter. Would you agree?
Yeah, and that's why it's really difficult to recommend Soldier, in my opinion.
I think I'm okay to land on S. Yeah, let me start with Qingyi. Performance-wise, it's a neutral, like, damage increase. Depending on which character you're using alongside Qingyi, this can be really good. But I think it's a neutral stunner, like a fairly neutral stunner, who I think has one of the better feeling attack patterns. I think she's very easy to play. I think it's kind of satisfying to fill up the bar. But aside from that, I think she's very popular. People use her with Zhu Yuan. She does a decent amount of damage because of her additional ability. That being said, I think I would be found dead in the streets if I did not put her in triple S. Not because I'm like afraid of, you know, arguing for this, but I think that, like, you know, she's always solid.
That's fair enough. I was kind of alluding to this earlier. If you're going to be a niche support, you want to be a niche support that's better than the generic option. And
yeah.
Qingyi is debatably the same, which is kind of the problem, in my opinion. I think Qingyi triple S is still fair. I would put her at the bottom of triple S, though.
Yeah, I would definitely not put her over Nicole. That's for sure. Let's talk now about Seth.
Seth is super niche. He's an anomaly support again. He gives a shield. Shield doesn't really do anything. He has cancels after his defensive assist that most people don't know how to do, where you can do an action on Seth and then switch back to your DPS and get the quick assist still. So that is the way to weave in his EX special and his ult. He also shreds anomaly resistance.
I agree. He's a solid anomaly support. I do like, even from a casual POV, how easy it is to play, consistently maintain his buff. I think the decibel change to him is one that I'm not like so sold on. It's a long animation for his ultimate. With his placement though, I don't know if I really have him anywhere. Like, I don't think I would put him in double S, unfortunately. I think he's down here. I think Caesar cannot leave this top tier. I know people are gonna say, well, damage performance and like this, that, and the other thing. However, I have in the past stated that, well, okay, Caesar is probably gonna be really strong for something like Battle Tower. I think there are just fights that you encounter both in Shiyu and in Deadly Assault that make like the anti-interrupt and like the fact that she is a defensive assist character actually very valuable.
I think the most positive thing about Caesar, one, the shield has interruption resistance.
Yeah,
two,
that's like the obvious.
Her buffs are low maintenance. That's what the biggest appeal about Caesar is, that her buffs are just up.
Yeah, I just think that there is like a comfort to playing Caesar. So this is the thing that I'm struggling with. So I gave you the first character, which is Caesar, and you can kind of tell that like my credential, like, or my criteria is kind of based around like usability, how easy it is, and like how usable the character is. I would almost be okay with the rest of the tier list looking like this, which is really messed up looking. Caesar is powerful. The character that's going to go up here with Caesar is Astra, because she does something unique in that she heals, though you can argue whether that's even relevant or anything. Along this, like, I kind of feel like these 5 supports here at the top do things that the characters beneath them don't really do.
I would put Burnice down one, just because I don't think Burnice is that prevalent.
I'm okay with saying that too. I'm just thinking like Burnice is like the best anomaly application character.
I think valuing Caesar above Nicole is fair because of the ease of use for Caesar, and you don't have to worry about buff up time. I think that's honestly enough to say you could put Caesar in the same place or above Nicole.
Yeah, I'm not so ready to put like one above the other. I think they both have, like, as you said, their own like intrinsic value. Obviously, again, those characters also have added value, as we said, like the anti-interrupt and the grouping. To touch on like the last 2 characters here, like I think if you want to put Caesar, Nicole, Lighter, and Burnice all on like the same like floor, like let's say I had triple S plus, they would probably all be in the exact same position for me personally, just because like they do different things. Like is there any like adjustment or like moving around I guess you would have?
No, I like your list. It looks cool.
Okay,
I like it.
I do want to like just because like for the sake of editing, I know I kind of lumped talking about all the characters all together at the same time, but for like the triple S or sorry, for the quadruple S, you know, having Asha's buffs, amazing. Like the chain attack she provides, amazing. Caesar's anti-interrupt, the buffing from the attack increase, the damage percent increase, pretty much everything about Caesar makes you feel more comfortable, which I think is very valuable. In terms of Nicole, the grouping, very powerful. And we moved her up to quadruple S, or at least I moved her up to quadruple S because I think she does something unique. I think Like, as you mentioned, Lighter's buffs are just ridiculous. Stun duration increase makes playing with Lighter very comfortable once you do land like the stun, like once you enter into the stun window. And that's not even talking about obviously all the oh my god, at this point, like with his signature and with like his kit, what is it like?
75 damage bonus, 30 crit damage, 15% red shred.
Like, what the hell is that?
And a 3-second stun duration.
Yeah, like what the hell are we talking about here, right? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And for me personally, if you wanted to move like Burnice down, like, I'd understand, but for me, I think she is a unique, or probably the best, I should say, anomaly applier, like sub DPS, aka support. And for me, in terms of that, she's going to outperform anyone else that applies anomaly at that rate or at that speed in the support slot. I mean, like, Grace might apply it at a similar-ish speed, but she has to be on field or you're using Grace, so it's like, okay, I guess. But with that, I think that's about it. I think everyone kind of fits in a similar-ish position. I think even on the list, I think they're all kind of roughly the same. If you want to have someone like Lycaon or Soukaku maybe go up or above or below the Lucy, I think that's fine. Otherwise, I think that's the support tier list. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. It is very goofy that the tier list maker, by the way, does not let you, what's it called? Like, remove them. Like, it's just, you're done. Wait, what happens if I, oh, wait, I fixed it. Oh, you just have to delete it. Okay.
Wow, there you go.
Huge. Okay, wow, I have a real tier list. Okay, there you go. Okay, wait, perfect. All right. In any case, though, wow, that was 3 hours and 17 minutes for a tier list. That was crazy. We did go in depth with every character. I'm sure my editor will love having to go through this. Enjoy, Yuri.
I'm sure he will.
That will be amazing. But yeah, any like final thoughts about I guess the tier list? Any thoughts about either? Like
No, I liked it. It was good.
Yeah.
Did Bell and Wise fall off in a single patch?
Dude, we need a new Phaethon. Oh, GG's. Wait. Question for you. Are you Wise or Bell?
I am Wise because I heard he runs.
Did you say he runs faster?
Yes, that's why I picked Wise.
What the hell? What?
That's why I picked Wise, because you couldn't switch it when the game started.
Don't call that based. Run speed in my instanced gacha game. What the hell are we talking about? That is so goofy.
Because you couldn't change characters. I picked the character who ran a little fast.
Oh my god. In any case, Jay Stern, thank you again for having me on.
Yeah,
would you like to? Oh, did you want to?
You can follow me on YouTube and Twitch at jstern25. I stream essentially every day. We do a lot of Zenless. We do some Genshin. I'm very focused on this min-max perspective. So if you want to learn more about how to pull damage out of your favorite characters or characters in ZenlessZoneZero, you can give me a follow and check me out. I also do guides for every character upcoming and released. Very excited for the next step.
Now, at the end of the day, guys, these placements and rankings are subjective and can change based on team, account, and skill performance. But with this, I hope you guys get a better feel for how these characters perform from both a casual, middle, and end game level. That's going to be it for today's video, though. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Check out the rest of my socials if you want to find out more content relating to me or ZenlessZoneZero. And thank you again for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.